Hey, everybody. Unfortunately, I'm still suffering from whatever it is that I have come down with. Still got the fever. Hate to be such a negative Nancy and be complaining and all that stuff. But I really, like I've said before, doing these streams really helps me in a lot of ways, including when I'm sick, because it helps keep me busy, helps keep me from thinking about feeling bad. Hey, Texas. And so it's all around. It's a good thing for me. Now, Steve is not so hot on the idea that it helps me. Um, his thing is, he says you need rest. You need rest. You're not going to recover if you don't rest. Um, and he also told me today, you're sick a lot. Yeah, hell yeah, I've been sick a lot ever since I got COVID that last time, and got long COVID. And I guess I'm just going to have to deal with this from now on. I'm going to have to, take vitamins or whatever, do things to boost my immune system the best way I can. But unfortunately, as the doctor told me not very long ago, my immune system is basically shot. And so I'm susceptible to basically anything and everything. But however, Steve thinks because he doesn't get whatever I have, and I told him you should be thankful that you're not getting these things. That's not really the case with me. I don't want to go as far as to say he thinks I'm a hypochondriac, but he kind of does. Um, so apologies if I don't look the best. I put on a little makeup, mostly eye makeup. I didn't. I'm running low on the stuff that I use to cover my blemishes, so I'm trying to kind of save that for when I'm actually going out somewhere. Um, so I did. If anybody ever eats at Fazoli's, here's something I can tell you. I mean, their spaghetti is decent for fast food Italian is what I refer to it as. But I just got a plate of, excuse me, spaghetti with meat sauce. Actually, it's coming back to bite me now. And of course, you get breadsticks with it. I've got pepperoni breadsticks in the microwave right now that I didn't necessarily want to eat with the spaghetti, but I was saving it, for a snack for later or something. But what I wanted to get to is if you guys ever get Fazoli's and you've never had their Italian ices, those suckers are really, really good. I mean, I'm talking about if you like Italian ices or you like slushies, if you have Thornton's around you or any other gas station that has slushies of any kind, or you like ices, then you're probably going to like this. But anyway, they're really good. And I've got a cough in addition to everything else, and it's making my throat kind of scratchy. So that was really soothing on my throat as well. Of course, I'm still a little bit hoarse, which is why I've got my Mountain Dew here. So tonight is just a kind of a throw together show. Just because, like I said, I wanted to do something because it's fun. It's a distraction from all the other things going on, including me being ill right now. Uh, and Monday at work was no exception. It was busy, busy, busy. And I didn't want to take off sick because I knew I had so much to do. So I just, made my way back here to my desk where I'm at now. and just powered on through it and got quite a bit done today. I mean, there's more waiting for me tomorrow, but for the most part, I got caught up on the onboardings that needed to be done today and all that, and did a few other things. So, there is something I'm going to show on the Daily Grindhouse that I got in yesterday and didn't. I was showing the movies that I got mainly, and this might be interesting to some of you, might not be interesting to others, but I'm going to show it off anyway. Um, and you guys feel free to tune me out if you don't want to listen to me talk about it. I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies that I'm going to talk briefly about tonight. That is going to be part of this Monday Night Mischief show. And if you read the description for this, it's totally okay if you didn't. Um, it's basically, kind of one of those ask me anything shows. We'll just throw anything and everything out there and see what sticks. So if you guys that are in the chat, I only see Texas right now, but I do see 5 people in here watching. So if you guys want to ask me questions in the chat, feel free to do that. Let's try to keep it clean. But other than that, you can basically ask me anything. And also, feel free to throw out some movies, like I said in the description, that you feel like now that you were probably too young to have watched. Now, I know when Dirk's been in here before, he's mentioned that movies and television were basically his babysitter growing up because his mom, had to work outside the home. Therefore, he probably is right now, Uncle Bill. I would say he probably is. He wasn't in there when I stepped in there. I mean, he wasn't snoring when I stepped in there a little bit earlier. I'm not sure what that noise was. I'm going to step over to the door and just make sure that, with 5 dogs, you get distracted sometimes and you might leave one of them out. However, I guess I didn't in this case. Texas, you say you're still here. Don't know where anyone else is. Yeah, I don't know. They could just be watching. Like I say, it could be some drive-by people that are just looking for something interesting to watch and may decide, what I'm talking about is not exactly their cup of tea, and they may move on to the next thing, which is totally cool. I tend to not worry about that. So, feel free to talk about some things that you now, at the age you are now, you think back and think, geez, I was really too young to be watching that. And that doesn't have to be horror movies. It could be some exploitation movies or something like that. Or even comedies. I mean, I'm not going to say we got to restrict it just to horror or exploitation or anything like that. We can basically open this up to a lot of different genres. Also, I would love to hear stories about people that kind of got in Dutch with their parents for watching a particular movie and you got caught, or you went to a friend's house and watched it and your parents got wind of it and you were in Dutch. So I don't think I ever ran into that when I was a kid, because my parents are very good parents. I wouldn't want anybody to say anything bad about them. But they did not restrict me a lot on watching things growing up. I watched, things at a young age. Like, I'm not talking like 5 years old, but 12 and 13, that some parents would just be appalled at the thought of their child at that age watching stuff like the some of the cannibal films, um, and stuff like that. Um, but the only things my parents, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The only movies basically that my parents said, yeah, we think you ought to wait, um, before watching these, was things like I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left, stuff like that, which where the content is just really heavy and adult oriented. But, zombie films, slasher films, cannibal films, any of that, I was able to watch it. Um, I guess my parents figured I could handle it. And so, and I wasn't a kid that had nightmares after watching certain things. And I have a theory on that. And I think I've shared this theory before, but I hope nobody gets angry with me, or anybody that's a parent now that has different rules for their kids and stuff than maybe they did growing up, doesn't get mad at me saying this. But this is just a theory I have, that the more you tell a child, oh, you shouldn't watch that, you're going to have nightmares, you're putting that in their brain. And believe it or not, it stays there. And so if you tell a kid that enough times, it is my theory that, yeah, heck yeah, they're going to end up having a nightmare the next time they see one of those things, because you've implanted that in their brain too much. So please don't anybody hate me for saying that. Again, it's only a theory. Uncle Bill, you said I'm mad at you. You shouldn't let little kids watch horror movies, Dana. It rots your brains. You don't restrict your kiddos, though, do you, Uncle Bill? I don't think you do. But the movies that I'm going to talk about tonight um, are ones that now I think, geez, maybe possibly I shouldn't have watched it the age I did. And again, I'm not talking about 5 or 4 or something like that. I'm talking about 12, 13, somewhere around that. Anyway, between 11 and 13, I would say. Okay. Because there were certain parts of these movies that stuck with me. They didn't give me nightmares, but they stuck with me long after I watched them. Now, I'm not going to have The Exorcist on here because I didn't watch The Exorcist until I was a lot older. But some of these I watched pretty young. And like I said, this stuff stuck with me um, over several years. Now I don't think about it as much, if at all, anymore. But back then, when I watched them, yeah, some of the content stuck with me. Uh, Uncle Bill, you say no. I just took them all to see Evil Dead Rise. They laughed through it, and I cried through it. Oh man. Um, so before I get started with this stuff, I just want to remind you guys, Texas, Uncle Bill, whoever else might be watching and listening. I do have the link, the StreamYard link in the chat, right up there at the top. There's not enough. There's not a whole lot of conversation to cover it up right now. But if you guys need me to repost it, I will. So if you want to join me live on the stream at any time, feel free to click on that link, and I will see you backstage, and I will add you, and you can share some of your memories of movies that maybe would have stuck with you, or movies that you got in trouble with your parents for watching. Okay. So before I get into the Daily Grindhouse and then we proceed with the Monday Night Mischief, um, I do want to remind everybody that coming up this week, Wednesday, barring anything happening, TJ and I will be covering the first half of the third and final season of Monsters episodes. This will be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Uh, Friday, again, I don't know if I'm doing anything Tuesday and Thursday. You guys are probably like, yeah, right, Dana, you'll probably do something. And I may very well do it, but I don't want to make promises and then not fulfill those promises. For those of you that do enjoy watching my content. Um, so Friday, of course, I will be doing the first ever on my stream. I almost said Dead Pit. Sorry, Uncle Bill. Drive-in movie night. And it's going to be pretty much like my watch-alongs that I do. We won't be streaming the movie because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. I don't want to get in Dutch with them. There's enough of that going on with different people for crazy reasons, and reasons that don't make sense. So I don't want to play Russian roulette with YouTube. So I will not be streaming them, but if I can find a link to both Halloween 3 and Creepshow, I will be sure to put those in the description and also in the chat whenever I do that on Friday night, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And here's why I'm starting so damn late on a Friday. It's because it's my late Friday at work, and I start work at 1 and I don't get off till 7. So if starting at 7 or earlier works better for people for these future drive-in movie nights, I will be glad to switch the time around. The only reason, like I said, that I'm really doing this at 8 p.m. Eastern Time this Friday, is because I have to work my late night. Okay. And like I said, I will be doing sort of like a watch along, a drive-in type of watch along for Halloween 3 and Creepshow. And this is Darcy Appreciation Night. Darcy the Mail Girl on Joe Bob's last drive-in show on Shudder. And excuse me, I think that spaghetti is really coming back to get me from Fazoli's. Whew. So the main reason why I decided to do this is because the last drive-in after last week's show is going on a little hiatus until June 23rd. So I've got a good 4 weeks of Fridays that, I can fill in. I'm not affiliated with the last drive-in. Again, I'm not affiliated with Shudder. No one from those two factions has asked me to do this. I ain't that damn popular. So I'm just doing this on my own. I have invited Darcy to be on. And I have not heard back from her yet. I contacted her both through Twitter and also on the Patreon page, where I am a patron saint for the Lost Drive-In, which is where Darcy is putting up old like Monster Vision clips and various other Joe Bob clips. So I thought about it a while, and really I have better luck with her responding through the Patreon than I do with Twitter. So she pretty much never responds to Twitter. She might when the last drive-in's going on, but I think she mainly comments on people's posts and retweets them and stuff like that. She's not really corresponding through the messaging system. So I thought I would try getting a hold of her through the Patreon page for the Lost Drive-In and see how that goes. I have sent her the StreamYard link, the invite. So who knows? Maybe she will show up. I really hope she does because I'm doing this for you guys as another, fun and different thing to do. But I do know that Darcy has wanted them to be able to show Halloween 3 on the last drive-in for a very long time. And for whatever reason, I'm guessing Shudder can't get the rights to it. They have been unable to show it on the last drive-in. So I was hoping, here's her chance to come on live on my stream and we can both talk about Halloween 3 and Creep Show. And you guys that are in here that night could feel free to interact and again, keep it clean, but interact with Darcy. I'm not really looking for this to like up my subscriber count or anything like that. I just thought it would be fun to have Darcy on here. Darcy is definitely, and I've said this before, the most personable and interactive with the fans of all the male girls Joe Bob has ever had. And I think that was probably part of that reason is because Darcy was a fan of Joe Bob before she applied for the male girl position. So I think she has that love of all things Joe Bob. I know she watched Monster Vision. I'm not sure if she watched Drive-In Theater, but she definitely watched Monster Vision because I've heard her talk about that. So I'm probably going to have to move along because I had 7 in here one time. Now it's dropped down to 4. But I do want to go over the movies that'll be coming up for these next 4 weeks. Like I said, this Friday is Halloween 3 and Creep Show. Friday, June 2nd is Joe Bob Appreciation Night, and I will be kind of doing a semi-watch along for Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, by the way. Friday, June 9th will be The Devil Made Me Do It Night. The Exorcist and The Omen will be the 2 movies we'll be talking about. Friday, June 16th will be Cannibal Night. And I will be watching Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust. On my end, it's going to be the animal cruelty-free versions. You guys can watch whatever version you like. And I'm going to be doing it the traditional Joe Bob way. I'm going to be doing it complete with drive-in totals and all of that. We will have drive-in food at my house. I'm definitely going to have popcorn and soft drinks. And then each week I'll mix it up. I'll have hot dogs one week. I'll have hamburgers one week. A slice of pizza one week. Nachos one week. Just random things that you would see at a drive-in concession stand to complement my popcorn. Okay. So, and if this proves to be popular, I will continue it even when the last drive-in returns. Although I won't do it on a Friday night because I don't want to conflict with the last drive-in. Okay. So moving on, the commentary or the watch-alongs coming up for the remainder of May and a little bit into June. Excuse me, guys. So May 27th will be Happy Birthday to me. Followed on May 28th, I am going to try to do Dazed and Confused and do it early enough so that I can get done by at least 9:30, so I will be ready to join the Dead Pit Boys for the fan commentary for prom night. June 3rd will be Killer Workout, followed on June 4th, which is a Sunday, with Death Ball. June 10th, which is a few days after my birthday, I will be doing Bloody Birthday, followed on June 11th with Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Okay, so we got all that stuff coming up very soon. So let's get to the Daily Grindhouse, and then we're going to kick off this Monday Night Mischief. All right, here we go. Okay, so something that I didn't show last night because I was showing the movies that I got in, but a little piece of kind of like retro type of drive-in movie theater type of, I guess, memorabilia type of thing. But I am going to get something to put in it. I'm going to get napkins to put in this because this is a retro Coca-Cola napkin dispenser. So I'm soon going to be getting some napkins to put in it. On one side it says "Have a Coke," sign of good taste. You flip it around and it says "Drink Coca-Cola," sign of good taste. So I just thought that was cool. Picked it up from Amazon for under $20. So if you're interested in that retro type of stuff, you might want to look into that. I also have a container that holds the old-fashioned paper straws that has Coca-Cola written on it and stuff. Hey, Dirk. So I guess, and I may have to step away because Brandon is currently in the living room, and if he starts making a lot of noise and or barking, I will have to bring him in the kitchen so he'll be closer to me and not wake Steve up. So we're going to kick off this Monday Night Mischief. I want to ask once again, if anybody wants to come in on here with me live, you don't have to say, okay, I'm going to come on here now, but you can if you want. And I do have the link in the chat. I will put it back in the chat if you need me to. Or you guys can just talk in the chat about different movies that either you think now that you were probably too young to watch them when you did, or movies that you got in touch with your parents when they found out that you watched them. Perhaps you went to someone's house, a friend's house. If you're a girl, maybe you went to a slumber party, a sleepover, and watched something, and your mom and dad got wind of it, and you were in Dutch. So I want to hear all those different stories. But hey, Blissful, I'm going to go ahead and get started talking about one of the movies that I really think, because this movie stuck with me, I think I was probably a little bit too young to watch it at the time. And this is a double feature, but I'm not talking about Visiting Hours. I'm talking about Bad Dreams, starring Jennifer Rubin, and also starring Bruce Abbott and gosh, dang it. I'm just completely losing my. I was looking for his name on here. Golly. I'm losing my mind, guys. Somebody will probably put it in the chat, probably. Richard Lynch. So sorry. Yeah, just totally. And also Harris Yulin and Dean Cameron are on here as well. So there's a lot of familiar names. E.G. Daily as well is on this movie. Dirk, you say you're getting hyped to go waste money at Texas Frightmare this weekend. Yeah, you have a great time, Dirk, and I want to hear all the stories when you get back. Okay, so why do I think I was a little bit too young to watch Bad Dreams? Because the subject matter is really, really heavy in this movie. And because it deals with a Manson like cult who the members systematically allow gasoline to be poured on them at the and then this is how the movie opens. You're shown a big old house. You go inside the house. There's all these people dressed in hippie clothes and stuff like that. You see a younger version of the Jennifer Rubin character, not played by Jennifer Rubin, but played by another actress. And they keep talking about the ultimate joining. Richard Lynch's character of Harris, who is the cult leader, is talking about the ultimate joining, and everybody has to do this. Everybody has to come up one at a time and have gasoline ladled over their head. And as each member goes up, it almost seems orgasmic to them. It's just very, very bizarre. But other than that, the cult members seem relatively, relatively sane. They're obviously brainwashed into thinking that this is the thing to do. But later on, when they start, they really go into Manson territory later, after the tragedy that happens at Unity Fields, the where the cult is, and they show flashes of different things of the cult members supposedly talking about Harris, and it looks like newsreel footage and stuff like that. When it starts showing that, the way they talk and the way the women laugh and all of that seems like you're having a flashback to Manson and the Manson girls and all of that. And it's like, where did these people come from? Because the people at the beginning, you didn't see any of these people. I think they were just trying to up the ante a little bit with this movie. Yeah, Uncle Bill, he should do a full vlog down there. So after, there's a discussion about one of the guys says to Cynthia, which will become Jennifer Rubin's character, "Are you all right, Cynthia?" And he asked Harris, he said, "She doesn't really have to do this if she doesn't want to, does she, Harris?" And he says, "Yes, she does have to do this." So we don't really see exactly. I mean, we got a pretty good guess within a few seconds here of what transpired, because we we see all the cult members getting the gasoline ladled on them. Then we see like Harris just splashing it and rubbing it on himself. And you talk about creepy. Richard Lynch was dead on with his portrayal of this Manson like cult leader or Jim Jones type of cult leader, because they what they had planned was a mass suicide um, of the cult members, and they thought in their brainwashed minds that they were going to go off to some greater, I guess, higher plane of existence or something. Who knows really what these the people that belong to these real cults think. After being brainwashed for so long. So um, then once we see Harris pour the gas over himself, the camera moves back outside of the house, and then there's an explosion. Then we find out, at that point you think, I bet everybody died here. But no, Cynthia's character lived, but she's in a coma for 13 years. And when she wakes up, she's in the hospital. She has to, they tell her she has a borderline personality. She has to go to group therapy and all of that. And slowly she comes to start remembering what happened at Unity Fields, and what exactly transpired. And it's at that, during those flashes, that we actually see Harris light the match and drop it, and the flame just travels through the gas trail and engulfs these people. And you watch people, supposedly families with kids, and they just all huddle together and let the flames overtake them. Um, that was very creepy to me, and that's why I say I probably uh, was around 13ish at the time. And like I said, this was really heavy material for a 13-year-old to watch. Um, and so, my parents weren't bad parents for allowing me to watch this. Um, I just chose to watch it, and they thought, okay, well, Dana's seen other horror movies. But I will tell you again that this, certain elements, certain themes running through this movie, um, really stuck with me long after this movie was over. So there's Bad Dreams. I don't know if anybody else, like in the chat or anything, wants to share one, or you guys want to just keep hearing me talk about different ones. Oh, Dirk's gonna try to get an interview with Barbara Steele, but she's 86, so we'll see. Good luck on that one, Dirk. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only horror fan alive that doesn't like Barbara Steele. Okay, so I don't hear anybody hollering, hey, I want to share a story yet. So I'm going to move on to the next film that really stuck with me and has the infamous Klaus Kinski in it, and that's Crawl Space. Dirk, you say you remember Dreamscape getting overshadowed by Nightmare on Elm Street? Yeah, I think I remember that. I remember that too. I definitely remember Dreamscape. So some people might think, oh, what, man, really, Dana? Crawl Space? Um, I think this was probably one of the more sadistic roles for Klaus Kinski. And I mean, there are just certain scenes where he's got the girl in the cage, and Marta, she's in the cage, and he's talking to her and telling her she's got to eat, and all that stuff, and the fact that he was supposedly an ex member of the Nazi Party, and a lot of but he was a doctor too, and now he's a landlord of an apartment building where it's all ladies that are living there. Sort of like a boarding house scenario. Only good old Klaus, he's not sitting around in his underwear on a desk doing some kind of mystical stuff. He's creeping around in the crawl space, watching these ladies, and setting red-eyed rats loose, and making noises in the crawl space, doing things to unnerve these women before he ends up either kidnapping them or killing them or both. Texas, you say, I was never really told not to watch anything except for The Exorcist and Carrie. I do remember you telling me that, and had to watch them on TV. I did try to sneak into Carrie twice and got thrown out. So I think that the creep factor is very, very high in this one. There's a scene where Klaus has blood and lipstick all over his mouth. A combination of the two is a very bizarre scene, and he's smiling too, and it's like, ugh, you know. I've seen Klaus Kinski in other films, and nothing to me really was as creepy as his character of Dr. Gunther, or Carl Gunther was his full name. Um, and I don't know how many of you guys have seen Crawl Space. This is a film written and directed by David Schmoller, who did Tourist Trap, Catacombs, and Puppet Master. Which, by the way, Tourist Trap was another creepy movie with the mannequins or the dolls or whatever you want to call them. Pino Donaggio, who, speaking of Carrie, did the score for Carrie, and also he did Dress to Kill, Blowout, and Piranha. And yeah, say what you will about Klaus Kinski, that he was a madman, that nobody basically could get along with him, or he was a terrible person, whatever. But in a lot of the films he was in, his character, it just works. And David Schmoller didn't like working with him. Including there is a short film, Please Kill Mr. Kinski, that David Schmoller did after working with Klaus on this film. And I must say it's amusing, but it just goes to show you how hard it was to work with Klaus Kinski. Yeah, I've heard that too, Dirk, that Klaus Kinski was a shitbag in real life. He was pretty grabby with the women, even if they didn't want to be grabbed by him. I think he saw himself as a real ladies' man, whether he was or not. And yeah, Tourist Trap is really, really good, Dirk. I would probably agree with that statement too, that it's Charles Mann's best. Charles Mann did have something to do with crawl space as well. But this tagline, although very cool sounding, he seduces them in his mind and traps them in his crawl space. He doesn't really actually trap all the women in the crawl space. I think Talia Balsam, who is like the main girl on here, it is kind of creepy where she is in the crawl space and he is on like a dolly sliding around through there trying to catch up to her. So yeah, there is some action that takes place in the crawl space, but um not like they make it sound in this tagline. Okay. Y'all share whatever you want to in the chat. You know, if you got some stories to tell about some different movies, like I say, that you feel like now that you were too young to watch at the age you did, or you got in touch with your parents, or as Texas said, he tried to sneak into Cary twice and he got thrown out. We could include that too. Okay, so the next one is The Curse. I'm not going to talk about The Curse 2, The Bite, because that one's kind of over the top. Some people might think The Curse with Will Wheaton is over the top as well. But I tell you, The Curse is a lot creepier than The Curse 2. So I don't know how many of you guys have seen The Curse, but because this one might be a little lesser known than some of these others I'm talking about tonight, I will give you a little bit of a plot synopsis for it. So life on the family dairy farm is difficult for young Zach Hayes, played by Will Wheaton. Hard work, long hours, and the normal family squabbles. But after an ice blue meteor plunges to the midnight sky and lands on their property, it gets worse. Zach and the local doctor discover that something inside the meteor is infecting every living thing on the farm. Fruits which look perfect on the outside are teeming with worms, and Zach's family is beginning to change hideously. This shocker is directed by actor David Keith, who is in Firestarter and White Eye, and co-stars Claude Akins of Tentacles, Malcolm Denaire from Christine, Cooper Huckabee from The Funhouse, and John Schneider from Smallville, and also the Dukes of Hazzard guys. So a lot of recognizable names again in this movie. So what was it about this movie that came out in 1987? What could have possibly stuck with me after this film? Okay, there was one big scene in the film when Zach's family starts to change because they're eating this food that has got infected with something from the meteor, or they're drinking the water that has gotten infected with something from this meteor. They do definitely start to change, but there's one scene where his mother becomes very grotesque looking. And it's one of those scenes where you see her from the back, and when she turns around, it's just, ugh. And at that age, keep in mind I was born in 76. So I probably would have been all of 11 or so when this came out. So yeah, I think, and again, I don't blame my parents, but I think maybe I could have been a little bit older when I watched this. But hey, it was a horror movie, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to watch this thing. But that one scene of when his mother gets really grotesque looking and she turns around and I think she may even have an axe and try to kill him, because it's like they go crazy too, in addition to looking kind of gross. Um, so Uncle Bill, you say, uh, yeah, I watched a documentary about Kinski. He was basically a glorified pedophile and abuser. You- I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that. Um, which is sad because he did have the potential of being, he could be a great actor. But he just had to spoil it by, being the way he was. I guess evidently on and offset. So the next one I want to talk about is one that I did a watch along for quite recently, and that's Death Ship. And this is one that and again, I don't blame my parents at all. And I didn't remember too much about it, but they took me to the drive in when I was a kid, and I remember parts of it. Um, Parts of it incorrectly too, because I, in my little kid mind, I was convinced that some of the people from the Love Boat were on it, but no, that was not the case. But George Kennedy and Richard Crenna are in this movie, about a Nazi interrogation ship, um, that the survivors of a cruise ship which sinks because the Nazi interrogation ship hits their ship. So they end up having to board this one, and bad things happen. Okay. It's, like Joe Bob says, it's like spamming a cabin, only it's on a ship. Okay. They get on the ship and they don't come back off the ship, or at least not everybody does. So there were a few scenes that kind of unnerved me as a kid when I watched this, and I'm not talking about when I went to the drive-in with my parents. I'm talking about when I watched it a little, when I was a little bit older. Um, One being the bloody shower scene where she's taking a shower and blood starts coming out of the shower head, and she's spinning around. And while that's going on, there's also Nazi footage that is being played on a projector, and some of the other people can't get it to stop. Images of Hitler are being projected on Nick Mancuso's chest in that scene. um, there's just so much going on in that one scene that is really, really unnerving. Another scene that really stuck with me, after this movie for a long time, was when the old lady eats the candy that has been on this ship for 40 or 50 years. Why you would do that, I don't know. But her face ends up becoming very grotesque, and she's asking for help, and she's following the little kids down the hallway, and they're running screaming to get away from her. So those few scenes really stuck with me afterwards. So again, I maybe should have waited a couple more years or something before I actually watched this one in full. um, Durkee said, my mom had a rule: close your eyes when there's a naked woman. Okay, mom, no problem. Laughing my ass off. Okay, so the next one is the infamous Faces of Death, which has this banned in 43 countries warning on it. Okay, I know now a lot of this stuff, it's come out that it was fake. Okay. There is some real footage in here. And I did a thing on Faces of Death and also Traces of Death. And I still want to, do one on the remaining, oh, sorry, Faces of Death and Traces of Death. I just haven't gotten around to it. Um, And you may be thinking, geez, Louise, Dana, why'd you buy a Blu ray of it? I don't know. Call it nostalgia. I don't know. Um, but I was probably, again, I do not blame my parents for this. They probably didn't even know I was watching this shit, you know, at the point in time that I was watching it. But Faces of Death was something that there were certain things from that. And I know the monkey scene, for instance, them beating the poor monkey on the head and then scooping his brains out and eating it. It was considered a delicacy. Although that really happens in some restaurants overseas or whatever, this scene was faked. But I didn't know that when I first watched this, and so that really, really unnerved me. Um, and there were some other scenes, but this did not unnerve me as much as the first Traces of Death. The first Traces of Death was probably the closest thing to giving me nightmares that I've ever watched. And that was because, and I don't have a copy of Traces of Death, so I'll talk about it without having um, a physical copy to show you. Um, but the reason why, and I've said this before, and it kind of makes me angry now that they put an on-air suicide on something as entertainment. I don't find that entertaining in any way, shape, or form. But when I did the doom and gloom show and I talked about Faces of Death and Traces of Death, I kind of forced myself to go back and watch Traces of Death again, even though I really didn't want to. Um, because it, as I've said before, it includes the on on air death of Bud Dwyer, who was a local politician in, gosh, I'm forgetting which state now. But he was actually, I watched a documentary on him called An Honest Man, and it was all about his life and his political career, and his family was on it talking, and his kids and his wife and all that, and which made me even more angry that Traces of Death chose to exploit his on-air suicide, um, because this was a heartbroken family that was talking about a loved one, and all the torture that he went through leading up to his suicide. Because he was a guy that was wrongly accused of taking bribes under the table in government. And basically, they were, his career ended up being ruined until there was really nowhere for him to go. And he was afraid that he was going to go to prison, and what a shame it was going to be on his whole entire family. And he felt that there was really no way that he could come out from under this. Um, and so, unfortunately, he chose to take his own life in a public forum. And when I rented Traces of Death, I had no idea because I had seen this. I had seen Faces of Death. And by that time, I knew that a lot of the Faces of Death stuff was faked. It was special effects. And so I thought, Traces of Death was going to be more of the same. And I'm sitting here watching it, and it gets darker and darker and darker. And then all of a sudden, it pops on this footage. Looks like real television footage to me. Turned out it was. A Bud Dwyer doing the um, news conference. He called everybody together. People actually thought, all the news people thought that he was going to step down from his office. He was going to say, I'm bowing out, I'm leaving, all that. So that's what they expected. That's not what they got. Because basically, Bud Dwyer handed out, some letters to a bunch of people. And he had these letters in a big manila envelope. And then once he had handed these out, he pulls out a gun. And when people see it, they're like, I guess their first thought was, oh my God, he's going to kill people here. And what Bud Dwyer's actually saying is, everybody stay back. This could hurt someone. Then he turns the gun on himself, puts it in his mouth, blows the brains out of the back of his head on air, live on camera. And that's not even all of it. You can see Bud Dwyer's body it slumps down. His body slumps down after he shoots himself. There's blood pouring out of his nose and mouth. And people are screaming. And believe it or not, some people are still trying to film it. And one of the head people was like, oh dear God, oh dear God, and telling people to leave, to get out of the room, to please leave. And trying to stand in front of the body and all that. It is so horrific. And at that point, I didn't even want to watch anymore. I was like, oh my God, this is not entertainment. This is bad. This is really bad. And it disturbed me so much that I just turned off the tape. I didn't bother rewinding it, took it out, put it back in the case, and refused to watch the rest of it. And I basically sat there feeling, I mean, it wasn't numb, but I felt like I just felt so ashamed. I was like, I just watched someone kill themselves live on air. I know this was old footage, but it doesn't matter. This was something that really happened. And I still feel like that is something that should have never, ever, ever, ever gotten out. And you can watch this on YouTube too. I don't know how it's still on YouTube. I mean, it does have age restrictions on it and all that and warnings on it. But boy, oh boy, you talk about something that will stick with you. And it still sticks. That's something that I have never gotten over, is seeing that. Um, so I don't think anybody, I'm not for censoring anything, but that is something that I don't feel like should have ever been put out. That is not entertainment. That's real. And I think that these people ought to be ashamed of themselves for putting something like that out and marketing it as, a Faces of Death clone. Um, so that might have I might have lost some people too talking about that. But I think this got you guys talking in here. Um, Dirk, you say you have the blue of Faces of Death, an important historic film. Now, I would say that about Faces of Death, but not Traces of Death. Texas, you said, my mom and stepdad took me to the drive-in, and I had no idea we were seeing Clockwork Orange. So while we're watching, that one scene comes on, there's the naked woman. I don't know if I've told this before. I think I have. Sorry, guys. That cough's coming back. But one of the times when I watched A Clockwork Orange, I don't think it was the first time I watched it. I think I was just rewatching it. And both of my parents were out of the house, including my dad, of course. And I think he had actually went to town or something to get something. And so I was watching A Clockwork Orange, and my dad just happens to come in at the time where Malcolm McDowell picks up the two girls in the record shop and takes them home and has sex with them all kinds of different ways. And the film is kind of sped up a little bit. And my dad came in right at that part. I was so mortified, you know. And my dad looked at it and he's like, "What in the world are you watching?" And I said, "The Clockwork Orange." He just shook his head and went on. But I was mortified and embarrassed and everything, because that's a movie that a girl does not want her dad coming in when she's watching that particular scene, especially. Um, so dad always referred to that movie from here on out as that orange film. He would probably, or that stupid orange film. He thought it was the stupidest movie he'd ever seen. Um, Texas, you say, and I said, "What kind of movie is this?" And I was told to lay down in the back seat until they said I could watch, and then I'll be told to lay down again. So I just went to sleep. Yeah, that's right. You just give up after a while. Um, Dark, you say, speaking of historic films, do you have any of the Pit, Dana? I just got my copy in today. I do have, but mine, I believe mine is like the work print, like more of the raw footage. I think it includes just everything, outtakes and everything. It was like one of the first ones that they put out. Um, and so I don't know. Steve may have the more polished later copy. Oh yeah, I agree, Texas. You need to get one of those. Texas, you said I had no idea about it, of course, until I got older and watched it on cable. Durkee say, yeah, back in the day, though, Dana, no one knew about the fake parts of faces. Same with TCM. Shit was more effective without the internet. Yes, definitely. Um, I still think, though, that traces of death. I think that those guys that put that stuff together, I again, I don't like censorship. I don't, guys, but again, putting somebody's on air suicide on a videotape or a DVD for and selling it with the intention that, hey, it's entertainment. No, it's not. These are very disturbing real images that could traumatize somebody. I mean, it come really close to traumatizing me. And it took everything I had to, because I wanted to be able to not sound like I was talking out of the side of my mouth when I talked about it, because it'd been many, 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 many years since I had seen that Traces of Death video. And when I talked about it on the live stream, that was the first time I watched it in total. Because years and years ago, I turned it off after the Bud Dwyer stuff because I just, I couldn't take it anymore. Um, but you are right about that. Which brings me to Maniac, which, again, I didn't see Maniac extremely young, but this is a very dark film, mostly to Joe Spinell's credit, guys. And for those of you that don't know about Joe Spinell, um, I definitely say look more into him, especially if you're interested in these types of exploitation slash horror movies like Maniac. Um, but Joe Spinell was not only in films like this, but he was in Rocky and The Godfather. He was on Cruising as a sleazy cop. But in this movie, he plays a very disturbed man who was the victim of child abuse. and his mother was basically tortured him when he was a kid. And so that led to him hating women. And guess what happens usually when they hate women? They want to go out and kill these women. And not only does he kill them, but he scalps them, takes their hair home, puts them on mannequins, and talks to them, very similar to Don't Go in the House. These two films could probably be on a double feature together. Hey, X Ray. You say, Sup, Daner. Pretty sure if Spinell had lived, he would have been on The Sopranos in some capacity. Oh, there's no doubt about that. So Maniac is another one that I don't think that I need to go on and on about. I think most of you guys, if not all of you guys, know the plot of Maniac. You know what goes on in it. A lot of exploitation elements, a lot of blood and gore, and a lot of really dark, heavy material in this. And it has Caroline Monroe in it as well. Dirk, you say, I guess it just all depends because people have been filming and taking pictures of wars. I know they may have been journalists, but hell, the news is entertainment to many people, especially back in the day. Yeah, you are correct on that, Dirk. And nothing like that was more evident to me than when 9/11 and Columbine both happened. And then I guess I really started to take notice of the darker side of the news media because during 9/11, I got where I just had to, I literally had to quit watching it because they kept showing the footage of people jumping and falling out of the windows of those burning buildings. They kept showing the planes hitting the Twin Towers. And I was just like, I know it happened. I just can't watch it anymore. You know, the same thing with Columbine. That was like all day long for probably 2 or 3 days. Watching, the scared kids that saw this horrific stuff and feared for their own lives uh, from these other kids that went on a rampage and killed some of their classmates. And you know, you saw the faces of these survivors and victims at the same time. You saw the parents' faces. And like I said, that I really saw the darker side of news media. So I totally get what you're saying about that. About them filming wars and all of that. Which I was never really big on watching any of that real life stuff of that either. But I think 9/11 and Columbine were two things that really hit that home. It hit too close to home with that kind of stuff. Um, Actually, you say also pretty sure Rob Zombie would have cast him in his bad movies. And Darky said the news exploits real life shit all the time, then and now. Yep, unfortunately. Texas says dark 100%. So the last movie I want to talk about is one that I've talked about many, many times. And that's When a Stranger Calls. And why did this one stick with me so much? Probably Black Christmas would have stuck with me too a lot more in the chilling, giving me cold chills department if I had saw it younger. But Black Christmas I saw later in my teens. Okay. When a Stranger Calls I saw earlier than Black Christmas, believe it or not. This was, one of those, the killer is calling from inside the house. They've already killed somebody and now they're coming for you. Okay. Very chilling. Charles Darning's in this. Carol Kane is in this. Um, and Tony Beckley as the killer in this. And Tony Beckley, sadly, he's died. He's passed away. But he was amazing in this movie because I could really believe there was something wrong with this guy. And some of the scenes that really stuck with me over time after watching this were when he's naked in the bathroom, and he's having flashbacks to when they brought him to the mental hospital after he killed the kids at the beginning of the film and was coming after Carol Kane's character, who was the babysitter. There are flashes of him looking very insane, and in a straitjacket in a padded room. And they just keep flashing to that over and over and over again. Very disturbing, very creepy. Um, Another scene, auditory wise, that's very creepy is when Charles Darning's character goes to the mental hospital to find out more about Tony Blakely's character in the film. And the head person of this mental institution lets him listen to a tape of Kurt when they bring him in. And he doesn't want to be touched. And when they try to touch him, he just goes wild and he lets out a bone chilling screech that, you would just have to see this movie to know what I'm talking about. So if you haven't seen it and you're like, oh man, Dan, I don't know what you're going on about, definitely watch When a Stranger Calls. So another scene that really gets to me even now is when it moves forward in time to Carol Kane's character is married and got her own kids, and Kurt comes back and ends up in her house. And she gets up to get a drink. Something wakes her up. She goes to check on her kids, and the little boy has a sugar daddy candy in his hand, and he's half asleep. And she says, where'd you get this? Who gave this to you? And he's like, he's all asleep. And so then she eventually goes back to the bedroom and she hears something from the closet and she thinks, oh my God, that's that guy, it's Kurt. And she kind of pushes on her husband, or what she thinks is her husband. And that's Kurt in bed with her. Her husband is the one that's moaning from the closet. And Kurt rolls over and he goes, yeah, like that at her. And it's very, very chilling again. So this movie has several scenes that are very, very, very chilling. Okay. So, would I recommend it for you to watch it? Well, heck yeah, because it's a great horror film, a really great horror film. But again, I think I was probably a little bit too young to watch it the first time around. Now, believe it or not, Dirk, I have never seen Funny Games, any version of Funny Games. So I really couldn't comment on that other than to say I've never seen them. Sorry to disappoint. on that. You know, I thought about watching it. I didn't even know there were two different versions of it either. Um, so, guys, that's all I've got tonight, really, because there weren't really any movies that I watched and my parents found out about later that I got in Dutch with them about. Um, but I can stay on here a few more minutes. I can stay on here to around 10ish if anybody wants to share any more any more stories in the chat. We still got 8 people in here. I see. Um, Evidently, Texas has seen it because he says I kind of like the German version myself. Um, so, Dirk, do you think I should watch Funny Games? So, like I said, I'll give it a few more minutes in case somebody wants to put something in the chat or bring up a memory that they have. Okay. I know what I'm going to do when I get off here. I'm going to get all the dogs' dog food ready for the morning. Take a shower and take me some more of that stuff that's like Theraflu, because basically that stuff's been the only stuff that makes me feel fairly well for a while. Dark, you say it's a good home invasion film. Same director, Michael Haneke, did both versions. I may have to check that out. Steve may have it somewhere too. A lot of times I'll ask him about stuff and he'll say, "Oh yeah, I have that. Don't go buy it," or anything like that. X-Ray, you said the only movie I wasn't allowed to watch as a kid was Killer Clowns from Outer Space because my mom thought it looked stupid. So, Dirk, you say you highly recommend Funny Games. Which version would you if I could only watch one version, which version would you recommend? Sorry, guys. I know I seem to have run out of gas here and not saying a whole lot. So, Dirk, you say I prefer the German version. Okay. I don't know. It just seems very familiar, like Steve may have a copy of it somewhere. Again, I'm not sure which version. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. The US version has Naomi Watts and Eli Roth. It's an interesting pairing. I think I kind of knew that it was a home invasion type of movie. So, 2 young men hold a family hostage and torture them with sadistic games in their vacation home. Ooh, man. So Tim Roth is in it too, in the remake, I'm guessing. Oh, goodness. So, oh, okay. I was gonna ask because I didn't see Eli Roth. So you say Tim? Sorry. Yeah, that that does look interesting. That's right. You say I prefer the German version of Sunday Landon versus Ass. Oh man. Sorry guys, I got so much congestion right now. It's bad. Well, guys, it's about probably 30 to 45 seconds before 10. But this was fun. I might like to do another one of these at some point in time. I just don't know when. But as I said earlier, keep an eye out on Wednesday for the first half of the third and final season of Monsters episode discussion with TJ and I. Um, I don't know about tomorrow, don't know about Thursday, but Friday will be my first ever drive in movie night. We're going to be watching Halloween 3 and Creep Show. I hope you guys have your, they're able to attend, have your popcorn, your soft drink of choice, or your adult beverage of choice. Um, I'm probably going to be having hot dogs to start out with. And then we'll probably move on at my house anyway to hamburgers and slice of pizza, and even nachos later on. So you guys can, pick and choose or not have a snack at all. But I think it would be really fun if everybody at least had popcorn, but I'm not going to make that a requirement or anything. People can feel free to join in. It's going to be pretty much like a watch along. I'm trying to get Darcy the mail girl on. Haven't heard back from her yet. Um, and but who knows? Maybe she'll be on here. Uh, but if not, and even if she does show up, other people can feel free to join in live on the stream, or you can hang out in the chat. Either way is fine. Uh, well, thank you, Texas. You said this was a great show and Friday will be great. Whistle says, "Oh, nachos." Um, and also we've got a couple of watch-alongs. Plus, I'm doing a fan commentary with the Dead Pit Boys for prom night on Sunday, starting at 10 o'clock. I'm going to try to do Dazed and Confused watch-along earlier in the night. Try to get done by at least 9:30 so I can hop on over to the fan commentary for prom night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And also, okay, God, I'm so sorry. Phew, man. And also, happy birthday to me will be Saturday's watch along. And I think Steve's got something he's going to be doing on Discord. What did he tell me he was going to show? Or he was going to be doing a watch along for? Heck, I can't remember now, but he's supposed to be doing something. So Friday will be a pretty full night, guys. And so will Sunday, especially if I do Dazed and Confused, which I'm completely planning on doing at this point. But with all that being said, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, and I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.